Hey, what's up? This is Sports Truth. I'm your host, Jordan Harris. This is the channel that gives you what you need to hear, nothing but the truth, not what you want to hear. All right, so today we're going to be talking about the selection that the committee came up with, right? So they ended up making the college football playoff selection today. They went with Michigan number one, Washington two, Texas three, Alabama four, Florida State five, and Georgia six. So I want to talk about the four teams that made it, and then I also want to talk about the two teams that were just on the outside looking in, Florida State and Georgia, because I know there's a lot of people upset about this. So I want to give my thoughts on it, but first I want to say at this channel, well, there's a song that Wu-Tang Clan did a long time ago called Cream. Cash rules everything around me. I'm a firm believer in logic rules everything around me. I'm all about logic. I don't like to jump into all this nonsensical hypothetical stuff. I like to focus on logic, what actually makes sense. Okay? So I want to lay that foundation to start with. So the committee laid foundation, I guess it was last week, maybe the week before, where they came out and they said, they actually showed their hand if you ask me. I kind of figured what they were going to do as far as leaving Florida State out when they mentioned that this is not about the teams who were most deserving, but it's about the four best teams. To me, when they said that, they were giving themselves a little bit, like they were trying to get the public, people like me, people like you, trying to give them a chance to come to the realization that Florida State is most likely not going to make it because they lost their quarterback, right? So people, what I've been seeing is like when they talk about how Florida State didn't make it, they're starting to say like, well, TCU made it last year. They were ranked number two. If you ask me, I think that the committee learned a lesson from putting TCU in there last year. TCU was so overwhelmed and overmatched when they played Georgia. That game was crazy. So I believe the committee was like, we went ahead and did the right thing and put TCU in the, as number two. I think it was number two seed. We put TCU as one of the top four teams. We put them in the playoffs because they deserved it. They earned it. And this year they were like, we're not going to do that again. We're not going to put a team that's inferior in the playoffs just because they deserve to be in there. So I think they made a good decision there, to be honest with you. Um, One of the things that I believe that people are forgetting in this whole system is the importance of momentum, like the importance of a team's momentum. I think people are really forgetting that part of this whole thing. Um, it's not just about where you started. It's not about where you are right now. It's not about how well you performed in the championship game, but it's about like, is your trajectory going upward or is it going down or is it kind of even right now? All four teams that got into this playoff, all four of them, their trajectory is going up. They all have momentum heavily going forward, right? So let's talk about all four teams right now. Let's talk about Michigan first, since they are number one ranked team. Michigan, they made it because they're undefeated. They beat the brakes off of Iowa. They beat the brakes off of them. They won their conference championship game in a shutout. Like, they shut the team out. You can't deny them, right? So go ahead and put them number one. They are definitely trending upward. Every game they play, they seem to be getting better and better and better and better. Clearly a top four team. Now let's talk about Washington. They're undefeated. They beat Oregon for the second time, which is incredibly tough to do. I'm sure you all can admit that. Incredibly tough to beat a team two times, which a team that's not just like a top 25 team, but a team that's a top 10 team. And when they beat Oregon, Oregon was trending upward like crazy too. So to be able to do that two times in the same year, win the championship in the Pac-12, gotta respect it. Number two, well deserved. Texas, Big 12 champs. They won the Big 12 championship convincingly too. They went out there breaking records, throwing the ball all over the place. They looked incredibly impressive. Plus, they beat Alabama earlier this year, and since Alabama won the SEC, that gives Texas all kind of credibility. You got to respect that too. So number three, that made sense to me. Alabama is the SEC champions. They beat Georgia, which was the back-to-back championship, the back-to-back champions, and then they had won like 29 straight games. So to leave the team that beat the team that won the championship the last 2 years, to leave that team out of the playoffs would have been crazy to me. And then as dominant as the SEC has been for these last few years, winning championship after championship after championship, unless Clemson sneaks in there and gets one, to leave that whole conference out would not have made sense. You got to include them. And I know some people are going to say that's not fair, but fair is where you bob for apples and ride ferry, do all that kind of stuff. So this is not fair. This is just, it is what it is. Okay, now let's talk about Florida State. I thought about playing Justin Timberlake's Cry Me a River during this segment, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to get right down to the business, okay? So, again, the committee came out and they stated that this is about the 4 best teams. I really believe that was to get Florida State ready for this disappointment today. I think that that's why they put that statement out there, because they were like, you lost your quarterback, you're down to your 3rd string, which I know the 2nd string would have been playing. I know that. But anyway, so talk about Florida State. It's about the 4 best teams. I believe they were not. I believe even with Jordan Travis, they're not a top 4 team. And this is me being unbiased. I know there's a Hurricanes helmet right here, but I swear to you, I'm being unbiased right here. Their defense is top notch. Like, I think they have top 5 defense in the whole nation. You can put them against anybody. Their 3rd string quarterback played against Louisville, and he looked out of sorts, to put it best. Like, he looked way over his head. And, I mean, think about it. The last time this dude started a game, he was in high school. He's a true freshman, right? Playing in the championship ACC game, so with reason. But when you go out and you put up 55 passing yards for the entire game, it's ugly, right? Like, it's ugly tape out there. And then, like, it wasn't just about a 55-yard passing game, but they just had ugly play after ugly play. Like, their quarterback threw it right to Louisville twice. To me, it looked like Florida State was saying, Louisville, we don't want it, you take it. And Louisville was just tragically terrible. They didn't want it. Louisville, you embarrassed yourselves last night, by the way. I know that you got your first-year coach. You made it all the way to the ACC championship, so that's to be applauded. But last night's game against Florida State was an embarrassment. I'm just going to put that out there, too. To lose to a team that's got a 3rd-string quarterback who has no idea what he's doing, and they're afraid to even throw it down the field, and you can't even put up 10 points, embarrassing. And then you look at Florida State. Florida State is trending down right now. They started off the year playing pretty good. Then they lost their quarterback, Jordan Travis, and it's just been down, down, down. They're trending downward, so it doesn't make sense to put them in a team in a playoff system where the 4 best teams will be competing against each other and they're all trending upward. And then you got a Florida State team that's either flatlining or going down. It wouldn't make sense. And then also, like, when I look at Florida State, and this is with Jordan Travis, I think these teams would beat Florida State. I think Michigan would beat them today. I think Washington would beat them. I think Texas would beat Florida State. Alabama would beat Florida State. Georgia, Oregon, and Ohio State. I think all of those teams, even with Jordan Travis, would throttle Florida State. Florida State's, I think their defense is really, really good. Like I said earlier, their offense, I just don't believe in them. I think the one player that is a stud on Florida State is Keon Coleman. Put him anywhere in the country, he's going to dominate. I think he is exceptional. The rest of those players, the offensive line, they looked pretty rough yesterday against Louisville. So that's part of why that quarterback was struggling like he was. He didn't have as much time as he really wanted to. So that's Florida State. I mean, it is what it is. Cry me a river, man. Like, it came down to you lost your quarterback, which is extremely unfortunate. But I think even with the starting quarterback, Jordan Travis, you wouldn't have been able to compete with these 4 teams that made it. I think Georgia would beat the pants off of Florida State if they played. That's just my opinion on that. If you ask me, the one team that really has something to complain about, I think it's Georgia. And just stay with me on this, because I think people are going to think I'm crazy about that. But Georgia had a 29 win streak, right? They won 29 straight games. Georgia was ranked number 1 all year. Georgia won the last 2 championships They were ranked number one in the playoff rankings last week and the week before. Like they've been ranked number one all year, and then they finally lose one game, and they jump all the way back to six. It's hard for me. Like I watched Georgia play plenty of games this year. It's hard for me to imagine that if Georgia played this team, this team, this team, or that team, that they would lose. Like just watching all the talent they got all over the field. The quarterback play is pretty. I mean, it's not exceptional, but it's pretty good. Their running back their running backs are like everywhere they got talent. So for them to say that they're the sixth best team in the country because they lost to an Alabama team that's on fire, that's kind of crazy to me. Um, I do like this is the four that I picked. Actually, this is the four that I suspected would get in. But to me, if you ask me, the four best teams in the country right now, it's probably one, two, three, and Georgia at four. That's just me. But nobody wants Georgia and Alabama to have to play again. I understand that. So whatever. Fair is fair, I guess. Okay. So um, then also when we look at Georgia, they have one loss, just like Alabama has. They have one loss, just like Texas has. So for them to have just one loss, it's kind of tough to leave them out of the playoffs, even though they've won it the last 2 years. So that would be my gripe. If I was Georgia, I'd say, man, we won 29 straight games. We were number one all year. We won the last two championships. Let us defend that. Um, we have one loss, just like two of the teams that's in there right now. It's just that they had their one loss at the wrong time. It's unfortunate, you know what I'm saying? So once again, I don't think that's fair, but fair is where you bob for apples and ride on, uh, do bumper cars and stuff like that. So it's part of the game, man. And this is, I guess, the exact reason why we're going to be moving to a 12-team playoff going forward. Because like, all these teams are deserving to actually be in there and compete. I just think that the four teams that's in there, I think that's just the four teams that I picked. It really is. So interested to know what your thoughts are on this. Um, I had to refrain from playing Justin Timberlake's "Cry Me a River" over the Florida State. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's part of the. It is what it is at this point. So yeah, I'm interested in knowing what your thoughts are. Do you think they got it right? Do you think they got it wrong? Which team do you think should have gotten in there? I know Florida State is undefeated, but Liberty was undefeated too. So do you want to put them in there? Like, come on now. So yeah, I'm interested in knowing what you think. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're working to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So help us with that. It doesn't cost you anything. If it did cost you anything, I wouldn't ask for it. All it does is cost you one click of a button to subscribe. All right, so as always, I appreciate you watching. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that. God bless. Take care. Peace.